blockchain is great. Let's not use it. So this video may come as a little bit of a surprise. It may be controversial. It may be one that not many people agree with, but this is something that I've been thinking about for quite a long time. And it's something that it's a viewpoint that I haven't really seen anywhere else. So I wanted to put this out there first, so I can call it and get my clout and retweet this when it actually becomes a thing. And secondly, because again, it's a viewpoint that I haven't seen at all really. I've seen it here and there, rarely. Usually, particularly made by those who are actually competing with blockchain technology through their own DLT. So I just kind of wanted to rewind. So first, let's go over the history of what Bitcoin is quickly, and then I will move on to some benefits and disadvantages of blockchain, and then why blockchain may not necessarily be the correct solution for the future for actually building, let's say, a world economy or world infrastructure on top of. So since Satoshi Nakamoto was in 2009 created Bitcoin, it has been the primary model that has been followed with respects to consensus mechanisms, with respects to proof of work, with respects to the concept of a blockchain itself, which is really this distributed ledger of transactions, of course following the UTXO model. So that has been the primary method, and it has been the most successful, really. We can see it on the markets, especially because Bitcoin, obviously top dog. It has been the most successful. It has never been hacked. It has been the most secure. It has been attacked countless times, both from within the community and without the community. And every single time Bitcoin has succeeded. And so that, obviously, to Bitcoin's benefit, it can enjoy those things. And really what Satoshi created was, many would say, the best version of what such a project could be on blockchain. Since then, we've had other alternatives who have come to pass. So that some use different consensus algorithms. Some no longer use proof of stake, for example, or proof of work, and they substitute in proof of stake, for example. Others use these weird, more heady concepts like proof of authority, proof of funds, so on and so forth. There's a lot of experimentation going on in the blockchain community. Even still 10 years later, we haven't really come up with a consensus mechanism that, let's say, is kind of the ultimate or the ideal mechanism. And really this comes down to the fact that proof of work is very, very secure, and it provides that security, but there are significant drawbacks to proof of work. And so a lot of the experimentation has been trying to figure out if we can create a better method of consensus, a better method of verifying transactions, so on and so forth, so that we get all of the benefits and security of Bitcoin without all of the drawbacks. So I'll first go into the benefits of blockchain itself, not just Bitcoin, but blockchain in general. And then I'll go into disadvantages and things like that. So the main advantage, or one of the main advantages to blockchain, is the fact that it is decentralized. So what does that mean? It means that there is no, obviously you've heard this a million times, there's no central authority. There is no one person who can decide. There's no CEO of Bitcoin that you can email to get your refund or whatever because you sent your money to some scammer. Like, you're just screwed. But it's decentralized, so that's a bug, not a feature. You have many nodes all over the world. You yourself as an individual, as a viewer, can go to the store, buy your Antminer or wherever, your online store, get your Antminer and start mining Bitcoin, and you can have a full node, and you can own Bitcoin. You can be part of the network. You can join in. It's permissionless. That's great. So that's one of the main benefits. It's decentralized. It's secure is the second benefit of Bitcoin and blockchain. It's very, very secure. So what does that mean? It means it's very difficult to hack. So Bitcoin as it stands today is worth about $200 billion in terms of its market cap. If you wanted to attack Bitcoin, you would need to 51% attack it. So you need to look at the hash rates, and you would need to have 51% of that hash rate. So the amount, at this point, Bitcoin has grown so large, and with the amount of hash rate contributing towards it, is almost impossible for any government, even, I don't even think the United States could do it, honestly, building a facility large enough, or many facilities large enough to actually basically double the current hash rate. It's just not feasible. It would cost way too much, and as we know, the government is not very good at basically anything. So it certainly wouldn't be able to do this in a timely enough fashion, as well as because the hash rate of Bitcoin is always going up, right? So that's certainly one of the great things about it. It's secure. So if I'm sending Tom $10 in Bitcoin, he is going to get it. It's not going to get intercepted by someone. It's going to show up on the blockchain, so on and so forth. When I send money, it's secured by this massive amounts of hash power. Easy. And the last thing that I see, one of the main benefits, is that it's very easy to onboard people. Again, this has to do a lot with the permissionless system. The fact that Bitcoin is permissionless, it means that anyone can run a node, anyone can have Bitcoin, anyone can buy Bitcoin, and anyone can send Bitcoin to anyone else. And so it's this ease of use that means that anyone can get involved in the ecosystem. They don't have to ask anyone. They don't have to go to a bank. They don't have to ask the bank. Only during working hours are you allowed to go to the bank, and are you allowed to ask for them if you can please store your money in there. And they'll store your money, but they'll actually take a fee out of it and all this other. Bitcoin has none of that. It's very easy to use. Now let's move into the drawbacks of blockchain. And this applies to blockchain, not just Bitcoin, but certainly Bitcoin is plagued by many of these issues. So there's two main drawbacks, or really just one huge glaring red flag, big weakness for Bitcoin, and it is that it is so unbelievably slow. It is slow. It is notoriously slow for what it does. It's unable to scale. Why is it like that? Who knows? No, the reason it's like that is because of the blockchain, the way the blockchain works. So if I want to send you money, I could send it to you, but you have to wait for my transaction to get verified on the blockchain. So every 10 minutes we get a new Bitcoin block. So I have to wait 10 minutes. However, if I want to increase security, I have to wait for multiple confirmations. So every block that gets published is basically a signed confirmation of the last block. So now you have two confirmations. So if I want to have some decent security, I'm probably going to wait for 3 to maybe 5 confirmations. Well, that takes 50 minutes. In the case of 5 confirmations, you have to wait almost an hour in order to confirm that someone has your money. I can't pay for my coffee if I have to wait 50 minutes before the transaction confirms and I can get my coffee. It's impossible. My coffee's going to be cold. I'm going to be cranky. I'm going to want to leave. So it's extremely slow. It's notoriously slow, and it's also very expensive to run for miners. So even though it is permissionless and you can run it as a miner, you have to spend a lot of money to create a miner. The electricity costs money. That's electricity that could be used for anything else other than doing random math problems that is actually helping no one. We could actually put that towards, solving some disease or something. But instead, we have all this hash power basically put to absolutely no use other than securing the network. So, that, of course, has its value. So it's certainly valuable in that sense. But you could get double value if you actually could put this hash power towards something useful. So it's notoriously slow and it's unable to scale. We have things like the Lightning Network, but these solutions they do make Bitcoin a lot faster and a lot cheaper, but there is an element of centralization involved at that point because you now have to trust these things called Lightning hubs. So you have to send your Bitcoin to these hubs, and only then are you allowed to send your Bitcoin through the Lightning Network. And then you also have to send it to someone else who is connected to the Lightning hub as well. You can't just send someone Bitcoin directly. So it's kind of difficult. So it's scalable in one sense, and sure, you can use Lightning, but it's not really that scalable at the end of the day. I'd rather just use Ethereum. Ethereum block times are a lot faster. Even if the scalability is not as good, it's still a magnitude better than Bitcoin. So all of that said, so now we know the benefits of blockchain, and now we know the drawbacks of blockchain. Now, I wanted to say, this video, the point of this video was to say that alternatives exist. Alternatives to blockchain exist. And even though Bitcoin was the first blockchain and innovated what it did, it's not necessarily the best blockchain for everything that people want to do in the crypto ecosystem. So, if I want to buy my coffee, which is the famous example, can you buy your coffee with Bitcoin? The answer is kind of, sort of, not really. So, we want a blockchain that is scalable and not so expensive, and also we want it to be fast, and we also want it to be decentralized, and we want it to be secure. That is the holy grail of crypto. Can you create a project that does all of these at once? And I'm not I'm not the kind of guy who's going to go up there and tell you that such projects do exist. But certainly with other methods of distributed ledger technology, we do have opportunities, and we do have different ways of tackling this problem. And the reality is that some of these may actually succeed in the future. So, for example, if you want to buy your coffee, you don't really need global consensus. Why do you need global consensus? Why do you need some guy in Africa to verify with his single Antminer in the middle of the of wherever? Why do you need him to verify the fact that I paid for my $5 ice cream here? It's a waste of resources, really, and it's kind of a waste of time as well. So you don't need global consensus for a lot of these things. So we have projects such as Holochain. So Holochain takes the agent-centric model. It says, well, you are your own node, and you can verify transactions by yourself. And if someone lies to you, if someone gives you a fraudulent transaction, you can kick them out of the system, you can boot them out, and their reputation lowers, and so on and so forth. And so now we have the system with Holochain where, because it's an agent-centric model, it operates very similarly to how we operate in the real world. If I give my friend $5, the world doesn't know I gave him $5. I know I gave him $5, and he knows I gave him $5. And so if he breaks that trust, I'm not going to be his friend anymore, and now he is kicked out of the system. So this is kind of how Holochain works. So you can have bad actors, but they don't survive for very long. Very similar to the real world. Another possible project we have is Radix, which I've just recently learned about. So Radix, the way that they work is they have a different proof of work that's not really proof of work, it's kind of proof of time. So the longer you hold your tokens in an account, the more mass it generates, which means the higher level of vote that it has. So it's almost kind of like reverse staking in a sense. But solving this one problem with Radix means that they solve all of these other problems with decentralization, because you can maintain a decentralized system much like in Holochain. Everyone can be their own node if no one has to do all of this crazy proof of work, because then it becomes very easy to run a full node. On top of that, how do you prevent something like a Sybil attack on something like Radix? Well, it's actually very simple. Because there's a proof of time aspect involved in everything, if you wanted to, let's say, fudge a vote, you would need to buy a bunch of Radix tokens, and then you would need to wait longer. You would need to have your tokens in an address longer than anyone else who's voting has their tokens in an address, which is almost certainly impossible because of the way time works. So how can you go back? You can't really buy more time. And so Radix does that model. So we see different methods. We see Rayblox do something similar. It's called Nano now. IOTA does something similar where they use DAG, which is what does it stand for? Directed Acyclic Graph. So these are projects that don't really use blockchain. They're called blockchain projects, but they're not really blockchain. Byteball also uses DAG, although I don't know what Byteball is really doing much of these days. So the entire video was to say that Bitcoin is king. Bitcoin will always be king. But distributed ledger technology certainly presents an opportunity to be more useful to more people all over the world, rather than something that is perhaps as secure as Bitcoin with its proof of work functions. There are different ways of creating things, creating a system that is secure, decentralized, safe, cheap, and scalable, and they do exist. And whether they will actually be successful, whether they will be more successful than Bitcoin, that's a hard thing to say, but they do certainly exist, and they're out there. And I would urge anyone who is into crypto at all and cares about the technical aspect of it to really think about blockchain itself and why blockchain is the way it is, and if it's necessary for blockchain to exist in its current incumbent form. Certainly Bitcoin is useful for some things, but not useful for everything. So Bitcoin is great for some things. Blockchain is great. Let's not use it for everything. It's kind of like that commercial. For everything else, there's MasterCard. So Bitcoin is great for storing your wealth. For everything else, there may be DLT in the future. So thanks for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it. I certainly enjoyed making it. Leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and I will be back with some more very soon. You guys take care. Bye-bye.